Well, hey folks, I just wanted to join. I haven't been on a lot. There's honestly not been a whole lot to comment on. I probably could have started commenting this past week, but I was under the weather. So today there's certainly plenty to comment on. For those of you who have followed me in the past, some of the items that I commented on last was our botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, and I analyzed some of the, from my perspective, some of the geopolitical fallout that I thought was going to come from that. And of course, one of those things, for those of you who remember, would be a Russian move on Ukraine based on America's perceived and perhaps actual weakness in the world. So, here we are, and I know some of you guys are probably wondering, what in the heck's going on. I've been following this. I'm in Iraq, and it's 8 hours ahead of Eastern time in the United States, and it was last night at some point that I began to follow the actual invasion. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I don't. Hopefully, it's not a surprise to anybody that Russia has invaded Ukraine. This has been something that's been being discussed, and it's been rattled about for quite some time now. So the Biden administration, of course, has projected extreme weakness, particularly since our geopolitical defeat in Afghanistan, or capitulation, whatever you might want to call that. And at the time, my thoughts were that we would have an emboldened Russia, an emboldened China, and an emboldened Iran. And I went into some of the implications of that. So it turns out that Russia moved first. So I kind of found that to be interesting. I wasn't expecting them to move first, but they have, and I think a lot of Americans are confused as to exactly what America's response should be, because it's not very clear what our response should be. So I'll make a prediction of what I think is going to happen without getting too conspiratorial or too speculative. America and Europe is going to let Ukraine go. We're not going to expend, certainly, any American lives, and we're not going to send, a bunch of troops over there to save the day or anything like that. We're just not going to do that. It's not a full NATO member, so Europe's not going to get on board. And you have to remember that Germany, in particular, is extremely dependent on energy from Russia. And over the past several months, there's almost been, you could make a case that there's almost been tacit approval by countries in Europe, and particularly the United States, by our inaction as the Russians began to make moves, and they began to build up troops, and they began to have more bellicose talk on the issue. So with our inaction, is almost kind of a Saddam Hussein sort of a scenario with Kuwait, where Vladimir Putin's like, hell, I'll take this thing I want. So Russia's interests are that they don't want a NATO country on their border, which I guess I can't blame them for. Ukraine is not a NATO country, like I said before, so there's no alliances that require anybody to engage here. So to put it pretty simply, I would not expect to see a huge military response. I don't think right now we're on the edge of World War III or Armageddon or anything, and I'm not trying to be a mealy-mouthed, talking head. I'm simply saying that I think Ukraine is a poker chip that Europe and the United States is willing to let go. And that's the way the game's played. So we shall see how this actually unfolds. But that's my prediction for what happens. Now, I think the implications that are fairly easy to predict are that energy in Europe and in the United States is going to get much more expensive because we've given that ammo to Russia by shutting off our own production. Now it can be reversed, but it can't be reversed overnight. You know, if the monkey in the White House decided that today he's going to order everything to be turned back on, it doesn't happen overnight. It does take some time. But so energy is definitely a factor. I think something that I've not heard anyone talk about that I know is being talked about off camera is that with every attempt we make to put sanctions onto Russia, with every attempt we make to make some sort of a move, whether it's militarily or electronically or financially, any move we make will be countered. And what I think Americans can expect is some fairly robust cyber attacks on our infrastructure, on our financial system, and on our supply system. And some of you may recall I think it's called the Dixie Pipeline down south, supplies the Southeast with gasoline. There was a cyber attack about a year ago, I want to say, that took place, which shut down the Southeast for, God, I want to say it was about a week. I was stateside at the time, and it was a little frightening to see that happen. Now, I've not heard definitively who was responsible for that attack, but I would be very surprised if China, Russia, other bad actors weren't involved. Everything is a probe, and everything involves evaluation of our weaknesses and our strengths and what can be overwhelmed. So every diplomatic engagement, every time there's a like a cyber probe or something like that, it is being written down in a playbook, and the enemy is taking note, or our adversaries are taking note, and they're learning. Of course, we're learning as well, and we do have some very robust capabilities. However, for every measure, there's a countermeasure, and it escalates from there. And so it's kind of who can have the smallest OODA loop and who can innovate and apply quicker and more efficiently. So we'll see. It's no secret that I have absolutely no faith in this administration, because there are a bunch of overeducated ideologues whose only product is good ideas, and they don't have to bear the consequences when those ideas go badly. The American people do. So what I think immediately or soon, and when I say immediately, I mean, the next month, 6 weeks, I think that I would be very surprised if we did not see some disruption in our financial system, some disruption in our ability to move things around, our supply infrastructure in particular. And there's other things, communications and whatnot, that can be attacked as well. But rest assured that Russia and China are more or less working in an axis. It'll be very interesting to see if China now is emboldened, based on our response to Europe, to take action in Taiwan. So that'll be interesting to see. So that's my take. And that's it. Nothing fancy. I'm in and I'm out. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for watching. Best of luck. And as soon as I have something important to say, I will come on and say it again. Look forward to seeing all of you again. Bye.